Hi, this is Robert Colquhoun, Director of International Campaigns.
Por la vida en Colombia está lleno de frutos.
Die losen und manche dann sagen, ja, es ist nicht mehr selbst.
People start saying that, if your thoughts fall foul of the popular opinion, that they're somehow criminal.
Mi hija ha decidido no abortar.
Our freedom in a democracy, in our open society, begins with the freedom of speech.
Ante todo, los pilares de 40 días, ¿no? La oración, el ayuno, la yoga.
So sometimes it's just a little thing that we have to do. So
también dignidad, que son creados también por
But
Dios.
beyond what we say, anything we do at 40 Days for Life, anything we say to defend the unborn, we do with love.
Los bebés no tienen que ser abortados de una madre.
40 Days for Life International Podcast.
El podcast de 40 días por la vida internacional.
Hello and welcome to the 40 Days for Life International Podcast. My name is Robert Colquhoun, I'm the Director of International Campaigns, and we're really blessed to be talking about Hungary today. Budapest, Hungary, we've got Levente Bodnar, and I was blessed to visit the Budapest campaign in March of this year. They've been running for many years now, and they've seen spiritual blessings from their campaign. Do go to 40 Days for Life International, rate, review this podcast as well, and we've got a new website, so do share that with your volunteers as well. What we're doing at the moment is we're interviewing a lot of the international leaders to share their stories, to hear out what's going on in their campaign. We've got such a diverse variety of leaders and countries, and abortion is very different even in just the European countries, let alone from countries in different countries around the world. So Levente, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. How are you, Robert?
Yeah, really good, thanks. And it's really great to have you on the podcast. You're a wonderful host this year in Budapest in Hungary. And you also came to the March for Life this year in the UK in London.
Yeah.
So do you enjoy the March for Life in London? How did you find it?
Oh, it was great. I've never had such a big march. I've never attended such a big march before. It really felt like going into a battle, and you knew you were on the right side. It was a spiritual battle indeed. And I was surprised to see the counter-protesters, the pro-choice group, and all the loud chants and just the scenery and everything, the atmosphere. It was very energetic, super energetic. I enjoyed it very much.
It's quite an iconic event because you've got the House of Parliament there, and then we're walking through the traffic, and you've got 200 protesters there walking through the heart of government in London. So it's never boring. It's always a challenge. Challenge doing pro-life work here in the UK. And tell us a bit about yourself, Levente, as well. How did you get involved in pro-life work? And tell us about your faith as well, and how you see. How did you get involved in 40 Days for Life too?
Yeah, so for me, 40 Days for Life means a lot. It actually started. I started 40 Days for Life in 2017 when it first came to Hungary, and I had just returned from my international work. I lived in China and Taiwan. I used to teach English, ESL, and returning to Hungary, I already had a repentant heart. I was not a born-again Christian. I was not fully living up my faith. I was sort of on the fence. I did my own things. I sort of attended church, but never really truly repented of the sins I should have done a long time ago. And returning to Hungary, I sought the Lord, and I saw this advertisement on one of the news portals I used to read, and it called for prayers and praying on site in front of a hospital. And I thought, well, praying has to do with the Lord, so I went, and that was day 2 of the 2017 fall campaign, 40 Days for Life, the first one in Hungary ever. And there I met Magdi, who introduced me later to her church, and started praying outside, and that's how it began for me.
Awesome. And of course, I've been to Taiwan myself, a bit of real culture change from Taiwan to Hungary, and it's beautiful that you sort of came back to your faith in Hungary as well. And of course, Hungary, you have a Christian government, don't you? So it's quite different to many other European countries. Do you want to just explain kind of where Hungary is in terms of the government, the faith? You know, is it what's the situation of Christianity in Hungary? Are there a lot of believers? There are a lot of people going to church? What's the culture like, and how has that sort of impact the pro-life culture there?
Yeah, in the past few years, I think we've seen an increase of believers in Hungary. Though the statistics don't show, but I do meet a lot of new believers. Just the other day, we had an Iranian girl who's a new convert at the 40 Days for Life vigil, and a lot of people in Hungary come to Christ. The government it does a good job, I think, supporting the church, different denominations. The president is the president of Hungary, Katalin Novák. She's openly Christian. The Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, I know he's also Christian. He is. I've seen images of him praying with Nick Vujicic. You know the man from Australia.
Life Without Limbs.
Yeah, the man without limbs. So I do believe we have a government that genuinely tries to return to the Christian roots, or try to support denominations and people to experience their faith more fully. That doesn't mean they're perfect. It's a government just like any other government. There are things that we want to see changed. I'm sure there's a level of corruption. There are things that are far from perfect, but we do experience freedom of religion in Hungary right now. No one has ever bothered from the police. No one has ever bothered us at the 40 Day for Life vigil. Never, ever. So freedom of speech and freedom of religion, I think, are real in Hungary at the moment.
And you've had a heartbeat bill there as well. So do you want to describe what that entailed? And so does that mean that sort of abortion is not legal after the heartbeat, or what? How's that?
The way it works is it was introduced in 2022, just a year ago, and this was shortly after Roe v. Wade was overturned. So I think this was a ripple effect of what happened in America, in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And after it was introduced, it added a level of bureaucracy before someone can perform an abortion. The idea is that whoever wants to go through an abortion must listen to the life signs of listen to the life signs of the baby they don't want, and they need to sign it that yes, I've heard the heartbeat, or yes, I've seen the ultrasound. So it added an extra level of bureaucracy level to the existing one. So it takes quite a bit of time to go through all the procedures, all the paperwork before someone can have an abortion. In Hungary, it's unfortunately still legal up to 12 weeks. And after 12 weeks, only very special circumstances do they allow to someone to have an abortion.
So, I mean, it's pretty amazing. You've got a Christian government and you've got family-friendly policies being proposed by the government. It seems like it's both Poland and Hungary that have more favourable Christian governments in comparison to the more secularist governments of France, of the United Kingdom. But people have said, Meloni in Italy as well might be more favourable to Christian policies. So it says that, you can have a good government, and it's not that they're going to be perfect or have all the solutions, but it is a sign of encouragement, especially in Britain here, where we have persecution from the police and from the government, and you can see that in the most negative light. And, you mentioned Roe versus Wade. That was so inspiring for many Christians. And if that had ripple effects in Hungary, just gave confidence not only to the pro-life movement to realise that actually we can end bad laws and we can bring awareness to the pro-life movement as well. Tell us a bit about the history of Hungary, because obviously you were a communist country during the Cold War. And did you grow up in communism, or do you remember when it ended? And tell us about the Velvet Revolution in 1956. tanks coming to Hungary too.
Yeah, my grandfather actually was a freedom fighter.
Wow. Okay.
Time magazine had the Man of the Year as the Hungarian freedom fighter in 1956.
Okay.
So that's how actually my grandparents left the country, and they ended up in Canada. So after World War II, Hungary was, though not part of the Soviet Union, we were a satellite state. And like Poland, our good friends, we experienced a similar fate. We were both under communist yoke for like half a century.
Wow.
And that really hit hard because for decades, Christianity was actually oppressed. It was not hardcore persecution like we would see in North Korea or China. It was, I guess we can call it soft persecution. There were white martyrs. You may lose your job, or you would not get a job if you're openly Christian. People sort of had to hide their faith, or that was also the government tried to discourage people from practicing their Christian faith by all means possible. They had a religion authority. Any event, any sort of religious event had to be recorded ahead of time. So they put bureaucracy, red tape, and all sorts of prohibitions for people to stop practicing their faith. It was supposed to be a slow, gradual deterioration. You know, communism, in my opinion, is just another form of atheism. It's, oh, your gods, you do your work, we build a better society without God. That's it, and it doesn't work. Our economy crumbled, and still we're struggling after 20, 30 years. We're still trying to rebuild, because we missed out half a centuries of free economics, and it was bad. Communism is bad. Never go for communism.
Now, did that kind of policy work of like soft persecution? Did people have like house churches, or were people still meeting in church, but sort of government sort of soft meddling?
Yeah, there were church services, but you would have government, what do you call them? Not spies, but observers, like someone built in. They would not let anyone know what they're doing. They would attend and they would report. They would write reports, and if someone said anything that the government didn't like, the priests would disappear. Members of the church community would disappear. So it was intimidating. It was intimidation and a strong discouragement for people to lose their faith.
And that's really got to take its toll. I mean, I guess like Poland, you had that priest, Father Jerzy, he was martyred, and John Paul II with No Hotu Church as well. Was there any sort of priest that was seriously persecuted in that time, or the church wasn't? It was white sort of martyrdom, that kind of scenario.
Yeah. Some were martyred, some were just imprisoned, some were just observed on a regular basis. So I cannot tell you names. I'm sure there are a lot more that we actually know of who were persecuted, observed, or strongly discouraged.
And the Velvet Revolution, that was when the Soviets sent their tanks to Budapest, and there was like an uprising in 1956, isn't that right?
Two different things. The Velvet Revolution, I believe, was in 1989, and that was Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
The 1956 revolution, we like to say that was the first nail put in the coffin of the Soviet Union. It was crushed. So in November, so this was the 23rd of October, 1956, and eventually in November, the Soviet Union sent in tanks and the military, and we were massively overpowered. And they reinstalled the Soviet-style dictatorship. So it was a very short-lived revolution, but we still remember it on every 23rd of October. It's a Remembrance Day.
Well, the reason I mentioned history so much, I'm a history graduate, and just seeing how quickly communism crumbled, it's got relevance for the pro-life movement as well. Of just, you've got this regime, you've got the beliefs, the ideology, and it's there. You think it's sort of undefeatable, and then suddenly it all just crumbles very quickly, and just out of nowhere, suddenly, just all gone. So when the lies and the misinformation, and sometimes military power doesn't work. It's like at a belief system level, as soon as there's doubt or weakness, and suddenly wow, just were you alive? Like I remember being at school in primary school when the Berlin Wall fell, and I put my hand up at primary school and said, I remember, what happened today, the Berlin Wall fell. So I think I was like 7 years old or something. So when it fell, do you remember that moment or?
Nothing particular of the Berlin Wall, but I do remember going to grade 1. So this would have been in 1990. I think I started grade 1 elementary school when I was 7. I started a year late. And there was still a red star in the classroom, suspended in the middle. And I don't know if I or one of the other students asked what that is, but one of the teachers said, yeah, I suppose we should take that down now. and there was, I remember most people were poor. Like the general population didn't have much. We didn't have the abundance of food we have right now, like the different kinds of fruit we get imported now, like oranges and bananas. These were new to us because we had a poor economy. We couldn't afford those. And I remember our teacher telling us, yeah, some of you can buy those bananas and oranges, but please just don't bring it into class because some may not be able to afford it. So out of consideration, keep those expensive stuff at home.
Wow. Okay. Gosh. So you witnessed the kind of poverty, like growing up as well. It was just everyone was pretty much poor. So
yeah. Well, I was lucky enough to be born towards the very end of it. So I was born in 1985, and things, the reformation, like this reform started in 1989, 1990. So I don't remember. I always had enough food, and actually there wasn't like widespread stuff. It wasn't as bad as some other countries had it. Like we didn't have widespread starvation. Like people always had enough to eat, but a very, very modest living. Like no fancy stuff that we enjoy right now.
Wow. And so, well, let's move on to like pro-life apostolate, and the history of the country really sets the context. And for many Americans, like only have abortion up to 12 weeks, it's quite different from many American states. And here in the UK, you can have abortion up to birth and up to 24 weeks. So, but many European countries, it's just up to 12 weeks, which is encouraging. It's more conservative than a lot of American states that have abortion on demand in reality. Tell us, Magdi's also the leader as well, that he's doing an amazing job. She doesn't speak English. So, but you've had a great team. You've had a great team in Hungary, and tell us about 40 Days for Life and your experience in Budapest running campaigns. What's it been like, and what are some of the inspiring things and the blessings that have happened?
Yeah, so we started in 2017. It was introduced by a great man, Imre Teglashi. He brought it, and he got a good team together in 2017. But we did have, and I was part of that team, sort of, shortly after it was formed. We didn't do the next campaign though. Like there were differences of opinions on how to do it, what to do it, and I think the devil crushed that team in 2017. We did the first 40 days, that fall campaign, and we had to wait another 2-3 years. I think Magdi restarted in 2021, and we've been doing a spring and fall campaign every twice a year, 40 days, twice a year now since 2021. The blessings are tremendous. Like I know 2 people who give their lives to Christ. We regularly pray for people to be born again, to hear the gospel, and obviously to babies to be saved. We know at least of 4 or 5 babies who were spared from people who later came up and said, "Oh, your prayers work. Yeah, we decided to keep the baby during that time you were."
That's
outside.
amazing. Wow.
Yeah, so definitely, these are conservative numbers, by the way, and I'm sure the ones coming from Sean Carney from America, from any country, because God knows how many babies are actually being saved. Some of them we may never even see or notice, but we know that prayers are powerful.
That's right, and 80 to 90% of the stories we never hear about, and we never know the impact that we can have. I'm sure God will show us. God will show us like what really happened, and those stories that we missed too. So, of course, Imre Tiglazi, he's an abortion survivor. He's got an incredible personal testimony, and I remember coming to a conference in Budapest in 2017, I think it was, and we had the Romanians and the Croatians come along as well. You've got a beautiful parliament in Budapest as well, really, really stunning. And to hear, that you've had that many lives saved is really, really encouraging. And there's so many ways spiritually that God can bless our campaigns. And, if we turn to him in prayer, in trust, in confidence. And you met an abortion doctor. Remember you mentioned in March when you came to visit, you met an abortion doctor, somebody who was training for medicine, who wanted not to participate, wanted to have conscientious objection to abortion, and you managed to help them. Do you remember that story? Be able to share it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So this young lady came to our site, and we started talking, and she said, yeah, she's a medical student, and she had already performed a number of births, like she was helping giving birth to mothers, and that's obviously a wonderful thing. A new life is born into the world, like the Bible is saying. And after all these, she was asked to participate in a so-called intern. Like they give all these scientific or euphemistic terms for abortion, for baby killing. And she didn't know, like, what do you mean? Oh, yeah, just an abortion. It will be quick. It's not gonna take long. You just show up and come and we'll do it quickly. And immediately she was a Catholic girl, and her conscience, set the alarms off and said, I don't want to participate in that. And I'm sure she may not have been sure of her rights, because in Hungary, I do believe by constitutional rights, we have the ability, we are able to deny that without any legal prosecution, conscientious observation, like you mentioned. And so she wanted to pray. The atmosphere was very dark. Like she said, she couldn't pray, but eventually she was comforted by another doctor who had a cross on her. He had a necklace with a cross, and so ended up not going into that room where they do that so-called intern. So yeah, we definitely have people who may have answered our prayers, because we do pray for doctors and nurses to say no to this murder.
That's right. And you mentioned the euphemisms that are used by the abortion debate. They can't talk straight about the actual topic. We've got to fudge the language with alternative words, and never talk directly about what we're really doing, or show the real pictures, or it's the one product that you don't really see the picture, you don't see what you're getting before you get it. So and conscientious objection is so important. Some countries have laws recognizing that for doctors, some don't. We've got a story in the UK of two midwives from Scotland. They were dragged that they were managers, and then they had people under them performing abortions. They said, we don't want to do that, and they lost their legal case here and got dragged through the courts and sued by the hospital. They had a really challenging time. So conscientious objection is so important, and it's so important for doctors. Not to do something against your conscience should be recognized liberty in every country, but the reality is it's not, and people can get coerced into it. You can get fooled and tricked into that situation where you're participating in something, even remotely, where you don't want to. So, recognizing and knowing that you're praying for doctors and nurses outside, people really value that. We had a hospital in Oxford, small bunch of Christians praying outside. It's one of the biggest hospitals in the country, and all the doctors are talking about the topic. They're all having discussions inside. Glasgow, we have doctors come out and campaign against us, and clearly, it's rattled the hospital in the way they've talked about the topic in the media. They've got people praying outside. They don't like it. It's a good sign. All the language and the communication sent there is a very, very good sign as well. So, what gives you a sense of hope in Hungary as well? You've got other campaigns as well, not just Budapest. Where are the other campaigns this this? Where are they? Which cities, and how are they doing?
So this gives this itself is a great hope, because we had only Budapest for a number of campaigns.
Yeah.
And then we had a city called Debrecen last spring campaign. And they did that 40 days, but they couldn't do it this fall because the campaign leader got pregnant and was too busy carrying the baby. So we thought, okay, we're down to one city again from two from the spring campaign. But 2 other cities joined. So we are up 1. We are 3 cities now: Budapest, Vác, which is a city north from the capital, and Székesfehérvár, which is a city southwest of the capital. And they don't do the 12-hour like we do, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They started small, but that doesn't matter. You start small and then you grow bigger. So we're very enthusiastic of those other cities. Yeah,
it's awesome. And what are the neighboring countries to Hungary? So you got Austria around one side, because it used to be the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And what are the other neighboring countries? Czech Republic?
Not Czech Republic. We got Slovakia on the north, Ukraine on the northeast, Romania on the east, Serbia on the south, and Croatia on the southwest, and Austria on the west, and Slovenia just south of Austria, also on our west side.
So your navy is not that good at the moment.
We're landlocked at the moment.
Yeah. But you must have had a lot of Ukrainian refugees come through. So
tens of thousands, actually.
Wow.
I think every week, if not every day. They mostly pass through, because I imagine they would more likely end up in Germany or other Western countries. Some might stay. A lot of Hungarians who are actually near our border would stay if they have friends or relatives, but that's a small number. I suppose most Ukrainians will use Hungary as a transitioning country. We let them through, and they have some privileges. Like, I think they can use our public transportation at no cost. At least in the capital city, I've seen it advertised. It may have changed, but they did enjoy some privileges, as far as I know.
And of course, the fighting was on the east side of Ukraine mostly, so that it means that you will be less affected. If it was on the west side, it'd be much more problematic for Hungary.
So far we are not directly affected by fighting. Like, we never had bomb shells or shrapnel or anything flying over. But like other European countries, our economy was hard hit because of the war. Inflation was among the highest in Europe. So we're struggling with that. Oil prices, gas prices, all of that. So it's something we have to manage.
That's right. Inflation's been quite a lot since the Ukraine war started as well. So, and tell us about, you've got March for Life as well in Hungary too. How did that go this year? And what was the theme and what happened?
Yeah, it's not as big as in the UK. We don't get as many people, but we were thrilled to invite Isabel von Spruce. She came and she gave a fantastic speech. Our March for Life is in the summer every year in June, and she gave a wonderful speech. And we also ended up going to a TV channel, a couple of EWTN. We took her also to EWTN and another Christian radio station. So there were 3 great interviews. And the march itself is great. It's not as big as we'd like it to be, but no harassment. And we had people coming from Slovenia. And so it was also a little bit international, not as international as yours in London, but it was good. It was good.
Well, what's the population of Hungary? It's like 8 million or something like that.
9.6, something like that.
9.6. So
9.7-ish.
It's great. I mean, like, you can't really compare. We don't sort of compare. Like, every country's unique. I mean, what do you think is unique about Hungary, and what's special about being Hungarian?
Well, our language is quite unique. If you speak Hungarian only, you're not going to understand any other non-Hungarian or non-Hungarian speakers. So our language is sort of part of our identity. We've had Catholicism and Christian faith in our country for 1,000 years. It's a 1,000-year-old state. The people reach back longer in history, but we've had a statehood for 1,000 years. We had some good kings who enforced faith, though debatable how much it had to be enforced, but let historians debate that. I returned to Hungary because I'm Hungarian, so I could have lived in China or Taiwan a bit longer. I could move to Canada, but I returned because I think if you serve the Lord in your own country, your country should greatly benefit.
What was it like living in Taiwan? So you were teaching English there, and I mean, I went there in September this year, and it was absolutely incredible. I mean, it's 4% Christian, very low birth rate, 1.07. It's one of the lowest birth rates in the world out of all 227 nations. And but they're right, they're interested, and people are open. And we had the most incredible March for Life there. 1,000 people there. The mayor came along. It was in 5-6 different cities. But it's like, wow, this population decline there is stark. And the difficult relationship with China, 25 million people on the island. But how long were you there for, and what was the experience like living there?
Yeah, I lived about 2.5 years in Taiwan, and I love Taiwanese people. They're the most wonderful people you'll ever meet. They're kind, and they're polite. They're curious about you and your country. And I was actually working with children, working in a kindergarten and one of those so-called cram schools, because they really want the best for their kids. They are willing to pay high amounts of money for top education, top English teachers. And it was a great experience. And that's where some of my faith journey actually began. You mentioned 4% Christianity, but that 4% is visible. Like, I remember seeing crosses on buildings. I remember hearing people sharing their faith. I first started going to a home group in Taiwan. And that's where some of those first seeds were sown in my heart. I'm sure they prayed for me a lot. And that eventually led me to a repentance. And after my Taiwanese trip, shortly after Taiwan, returning to Hungary, I was born again. But I think it thanks to God, first of all, but thanks to all those people who prayed for me while attending the home fellowships in Taiwan. What's the name of their church? There's a great charismatic church, Bread of Life Church. Taipei, and I lived in the city Hsinchu, which is sort of south of the capital city Taipei, and it's on the west coast. Jubei part of town, which is just north of Hsinchu. Lovely people, amazing Taiwanese people, and they are very very open about their faith. It was great to meet Christians in Taiwan.
And how did you come to faith, and what was that journey like for you becoming a Christian?
Yeah, in 2014. There was a turning point. My parents are Catholic. I was baptized in a Catholic church in a small town in Hungary, but we lived a secular life. We never went to mass, and so I lived in the world. And we moved to Canada, and after Canada, I moved to China to work, to teach English. And I lived in sin because I had girlfriends, and I shouldn't have, but because I'm not married, I was never married. And in 2014, I had a short visit in Hungary, and there was this little group of people in a park playing worship music. And me and my buddy stopped, and they talked to us. They witnessed one of the guitar player, the leader of that little fellowship. He was a heavy drug addict before he was born again. Like, he showed me his arms, his tattoos, how he used needles before. Like, to me, his testimony, your personal testimony, by the way, is powerful. It's something only you can share, right? And his testimony was powerful. He invited me into his little fellowship. This is in Budapest, right? And at the end of that little gathering, he asked if I was interested, if I wanted to invite Jesus in my heart. And I said yes. He put his hand on my head. He prayed for me, and we prayed together. And from that moment, 2014, I called myself a Christian, though wasn't really born again. It was my identity now, but I didn't read the Bible. I didn't read the Holy Scriptures, right? I didn't attend church. I just called myself a Christian. But once you say yes to God, he will not want to let you go. And he didn't let me go. So I went to Taiwan, and I was talking to the security guard in my apartment building, and there comes a middle-aged lady, and she said, she just strikes up a conversation, which usually doesn't happen. Two men talking and a Taiwanese lady come over, that rarely happens. But she saw that I was white and I was talking in Chinese. My Chinese is not that good. I was just practicing, but that prompted her to ask, and she invited me to her fellowship. And I returned to that fellowship every Thursday evening, and they were very kind. They had a big screen, and they displayed Chinese and just for me below in English, the Bible scripture that was always every day. They had a scripture to study, and we were singing, and they always had some fruit. So I thought, well, if for anything, I could just go for the fruit, because they had some delicious fruit like I've never seen before. There's some crazy stuff in the Orientals, and I loved it. And I returned, and I think I grew a lot in faith, and I recognized that I'm living sort of like two lives: the good Christian boy who goes to the fellowship, and the playboy who chases girls after fellowship and church is over. So I recognized that I had to change, because it actually made me sick. Like you cannot commit sin and not feel the effects. Like you reap what you sow. And I ended up coming back to Hungary, and I became very serious. It's like the prodigal son returning to his father, me returning to Hungary, trying to find a good church where I can grow in faith and wisdom. And that's what happened. So in 2017, I said, okay, it's great that I'm Christian, but I should also act like one, not just on Sundays, but on weekdays and Saturday as well.
Awesome. That's really incredible. And thank you so much for sharing your personal story and personal testimony. And tell us, is there like a divide between Protestants and Catholics in Hungary, or are Christians working together ecumenically? What's the sort of church dynamic in Hungary?
Oh, one of the reasons why I love 40 Days for Life. It's perfect anchor for Protestants and Catholics and all denominations to come together, to come to Jesus for advice and pray to end abortion. And so there are lovely, I met some great Catholic, you being one, met some great Catholic brothers and sisters. Almost every day, almost every time I go out to pray, there's somebody new who comes. This is the first time they come, and I'm inviting them over. One unique thing we have in Hungary is we have these aprons, magdim aprons, white aprons. They look cute, I think. They look awesome. And so it says 40 Days for Life. It's a white apron, and we somewhat look official. So when we actually walk into the hospital, the security guard might think that we're doctors or someone, some medical students. And so, it's a great place to witness to people. Like I said, just the other day, a week ago, Monday, I was at our vigil site, and I noticed this young lady outside. And I thought, okay, maybe she's coming to pray. But she was actually another medical student waiting, but she came too early. She came half an hour early. And it turns out she's Iranian. And we struck a conversation and obviously start talking about the gospel, Jesus, faith, why we are here, why abortion is evil. And she was so open. She was in such high spirits that after 30 minutes, I asked her, do you want to invite Jesus in your life? And she said, yes. And we said a prayer together, and there you go. I think heaven rejoiced at that moment. So people are coming to God at 40 Days for Life vigils, and Catholics and Protestants, they're not there to argue about details on what the Bible says, how we should pray. No, we pray together. We say the Lord's prayers together, and we are basically loving brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I mean, as Christians, we can't really afford to behave like that anymore.
No.
Of like, you're this Christian and I'm that Christian, and like Protestant Catholic battle or whatever it is. Like, you know, you look at the ubiquitous tentacles of secularism, like in a country like Britain, and, you know, it's kind of I mean, the sanctity of human life is an issue that unites all Christians. Mm-hmm. And then really dynamic 40 Days for Life campaigns, they can work together. It's like, we're all on the same team, guys, and it's okay. You might like the liturgy this way, or you might pray a little bit differently that way, but, you know, get over it. We're talking about the killing of innocent unborn children, and it's like, can we work together? Or can't we, you know, and to think, oh, well, we can't work with this so-and-so because of X, Y, Z. You know, that's a travesty given the gravity of the situation, the enormity of abortion, you think of the spiritual significance of one abortion. And, you know, Jesus says, you know, there's many rooms in my Father's house, you know, it kind of in the afterlife, we've suddenly realized, and just think of the talent of, you know, talent of Protestants in Britain. We've got the Alpha course. It's all over the world. Like some of the best, most talented Christians in the world are Protestant Christians in Britain, and they have unique skills in which, you know, we have Alpha courses in the Catholic Church all over the place. So, you know, to have the initiative, the creativity, and the dynamism, just say, look, you know, okay, you pray on Mondays, we'll pray on Tuesdays, we'll pray together, whatever it is, you know, those days of kind of the, you know, the Reformation and battles are kind of gone, you know. And if God's calling you to be a particular type of Christian denomination, that's great. And we, you know, we are 80% Catholic, 20% Protestant, and sort of the dynamic in USA and probably internationally as well. You know, it doesn't matter where you're coming from in terms of your personal background. It's what you do with your faith. And we have, you know, spiritual greatness. God has given us spiritual greatness. And we can accomplish amazing things with our prayers, with our faith. We can do miracles. We can do incredible things. So, you know, it's like, who's on the team? And like, you're either on board or you're not. So, and we need all the help we can get. We can't sort of exclude people just because we don't like their church or what have you. It's like, you know, we're welcome. We meet everyone. I met a post-abortive lady in the street in Sheffield this week, and wow, you know, and it's just like these grace-filled encounters that we have are miraculous, and they're wonderful. And the more that we can witness to our faith, I think that's when God can really, really use us. So what's unique, of course, you've got flag waving in Budapest as well. I've never seen that at a vigil anywhere in the world. What's the flag waving, and what describe kind of what that's all about? So that's definitely unique. Yeah,
it was new to me too. I've only seen it in Hungary so far.
Yeah.
So I cannot pinpoint which psalm, but in certain psalms, yeah, praise the Lord, wave the flags. Those who do flag wavings, they consider it as we are an army of God, the Lord of hosts, right? We are part of his army as prayer warriors. And just like in a real battle, the front man would carry a flag displaying either the sign of their country, either the sign of their faith. And when Christians, they wave the flags, they have most of them, they make their own flags, right? So it's not something that's mass produced that here, this is what we do, is they make their own, and some of them will say Lion of Judah on it. Some of them will have the dove symbolizing the Holy Spirit. So symbology, I think, is important. And they will choose one particular flag for one particular worship as the Spirit leads them. And so they consider that part of the worship. This always happens when there's a worship singing going on. So when we praise the Lord in hymns, in songs with tambourines and with all sorts of instruments, people wave the flags, and they develop different techniques, and they see it as part of the spiritual battle we have. And I think it does have a positive impact in the unseen.
Of course, like, you know, we'd have carried flags into battle like in olden days. I went to a reenactment of the Battle of Hastings, 1066, just recently. And so there's so many dynamics of our Christian heritage that we've either like forgotten or you know, have gone by the wayside. So I love the fact that you have flags at the vigil, and that there was like a ceremony, and seemed like a dance as well. And, you know, each country brings their unique value and perspective to 40 days. And I think, you know, we've got beautiful prayer vigils across Europe now in different European countries, and things are just growing. Things are just going to get bigger, more countries, more campaigns, and really exciting times, you know, and where we can get our Christian faith to embrace the culture and challenge people, meet people where they're at, the more we can enculturate the mission and message of 40 Days for Life into the different country, not only to understand the culture, understand the customs, and you have an incredibly rich Christian heritage in Hungary going back thousands of years. You think of America, it's a country that's 250 years old. They've got like, 4, 5, 6 generations there of people. It's so young, and they don't have the cathedrals that are 1,000 years old. We have all this incredible Christian heritage in Europe, and at the same time the faith is dead, and very few people are going to church, and very few people realize. But all the more to witness in the street, and where better to be than in the street witnessing, because we meet people where they're at. It is a frontline apostolate, and you're at the place where abortions are happening, which is, rather than abstractly talk about abortion, write to your MP, write to your politician, beat about the bush, share news on a website. We are standing up publicly on a controversial issue, and people love this, people hate it. Regardless, we're meeting people where they're at. And in Britain, we have millions of post-abortive men and women who are walking the streets, who've, in 20 years, they've never had anyone talk to them about the subject. And we can break through the ice. And I think that's what's so great about the apologetics, and the more that we're able to defend our faith. I used to be afraid of being Christian and sharing my faith with others, but 40 Days for Life has given me that confidence of not worrying about what other people think. You'd be crippled as a Christian if you're worried about what people think, or you're worried about being judged, or you don't know what to say. Like, to have somebody aggressively come up to us this week and about their abortion experience. And story in America was somebody had an abortion, and they spoke to one of the volunteers who said, my abortion was 20 years ago, when was yours? And they both cried and hugged. And it's those kind of faith transforming moments, just like you described meeting a doctor who didn't want to do abortions and want to have a conscientious objection to her workplace. We're meeting people being real and encountering their life stories, and your faith story is incredible. And we all, at the end of the day, everything is referred to Christ. It's like he is, meaning, purpose of being Christian is so important. And we can go through life without any faith at all, but where's the meaning and purpose? So being Christian really brings that perspective to me, and how exciting to be on the streets, publicly witnessing. You were saying that new people are coming to the vigil like every day. Every time, I go to the vigil, something new happens. We had rat catchers in Liverpool this week. They had vermin sort of control, like at the abortion centre in Liverpool. And so I've never seen that before, where they've got like a vermin problem in the abortion clinic, which is kind of symbolic of the sort of spiritual nature of sin and what's happening there. That, it's a sort of, it's a dirty business, and they can't even keep the sort of sanitary clean nature of the abortion clinic. So so every time something new happens, and that's what's exciting to be on mission, is to evangelize, to go out on mission. And we have, we've got a huge the scope of our mission, like you mentioned, 9 million people in Hungary. That's like the size of London. There's a lot of people in the country, and there's a lot of people to reach, and many people are wounded, affected by abortion. There's people that we can reach in different ways. So what message do you have for like 40 Days for Life leaders and volunteers? You've been to our international conferences in Poland and in Germany, and the next one's coming up next year. These are wonderful encounters with some of the best pro-life leaders, and it's a great, it's a celebration for our leaders, and a thank you. What message do you have for other 40 Days for Life leaders?
I want to quote from Psalm 27. Have faith, and take heart, like have courage, basically. So we want more campaign leaders, we want more cities to join. And I forget his name, this wonderful guy from I think it was Spanish in the Czech Republic. He started a campaign all his own, right? And he didn't do 7 days, 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. But he just did a few hours every week, and it can grow from there. So be brave, have courage, and do what God is calling you to do. Because when we make that step, when we make that leap of faith, God will reward it. God will reward it. And it's not going to be easy, but we're not doing it because it's easy. We're doing it because we are children of God, and God wants us to move mountains.
Absolutely. And, Book of Zephaniah in the Old Testament says, do not despise, small beginnings. Like, you've got to start somewhere. And I love the people who take that step of faith, who don't procrastinate, who just get out there and go and do it. And regardless of the circumstances. And for me, everything is a plus. It's not, oh, this wasn't perfect and we didn't fill all the hours and this kind of thing. No, I got out there, I witnessed, I took the plunge, I gave it my best. That's the kind of positive mental attitude, and that's the thing that saves babies' lives. And that's kind of people. That's the kind of thing that meets people where they're at. And it's the onus is on us to change the culture. It's the abortion laws that are set, and we have to create a pro-life culture. And we do that one person at a time. We can't change the whole of society. We're never going to have perfect pro-life laws. But we are going to meet people where they're at. And I think one of the beautiful things about 40 Days is reaching people who've had abortions. Knowing that there's hope, there's healing, there's opportunities. The Save Babies is incredible, just one of the biggest spiritual blessings. And it's so amazing to hear you've got 4 or 5 saves. And in Hungary, you're outside hospital. It's quite rare to have these kind of events if you're not outside a busy abortion clinic. But, the hope that we've seen from the pro-life movement in the US, we are taking that to different countries around the world. And I love your attitude and your mentality, Levente. Not only your conversion, but your willingness to get out there, to witness, to sacrifice your time, your efforts, and to make 40 days a reality. This is hard work. It's not something that it easily happens. Filling a prayer vigil is extremely difficult, hard work. And you get attacked. Have you had any attacks at all, or persecution? Mostly, is it passers-by who sort of say a few rude words? Is that as far as it go, or have you ever had anything more serious than that?
Yeah, nothing too serious. I remember seeing a couple of young girls taking off our signs. One of the things that we do in Budapest is we will take some scripture or some pro-life message. Keep the baby, we'll love the baby, or we'll help, we'll pray. And some of them end up in the trash. But this fall campaign, I haven't seen that actually. So there may have been an improvement. I've also just last night, actually, I was outside last night. Actually, probably nothing to do with us, but there are some homeless people in Budapest too. And many of these homeless people, they're alcoholics. And so they panhandle on the streets, and it's actually dangerous because cars can hit them. They usually take the strategy of standing near a red light, and when cars stop, they would walk up. And this guy, he was quite aggressive. Like, he would go and he would shake his hand at, give me some money, give me some money. He wants to drink, right? So giving money is not going to help the man. And I just told him to come over here, like, get off the road. And I told him, look, this is leading you nowhere. Like, you need to stop, and you need to do something that's good and stop doing what's not good, what's killing you. And I told him to stop harassing people, stop aggressively begging and slowing down traffic, and it puts you in danger, and it puts the others in danger too. We don't feel comfortable. And I didn't tell him to leave. I wanted to carry on a good conversation. I talked to him before, but he would say something nasty and he would leave, right? I didn't have to approach him, right? If you are not the sort of person, you don't have to. But he was nearby, and I wanted to say, a couple of things to him. He left. So these things occur. But yeah, we've been fortunate that no one has thrown stuff at us. Most of the times when I hold a sign on the streets, people would give the thumbs up. So I'd say 70% of the responses are actually positive, like they appreciate it. They may not have the courage, or they may not ever go to our church, but they would, I think their conscience will say that, yeah, that's actually good. We should protect life from conception.
Well, we get so many attacks in Britain, it's often easy to forget, some people are very receptive, like they've never heard a pro-life message before. You're the only Bible that they're going to read ever in their own life. And what I love is these life-changing encounters of really sharing our faith. I mean, we had somebody in Sheffield come up to us and he was really receptive. What is this about? And I'm a little bit skeptical, having had so much criticism and attacks. He's just like, but for real, he was just completely open, has shared a very clear pro-life message with him. And that's the opportunity that we have. And whether it's a homeless person, as you mentioned, this kind of witness can be life-changing. You can be the hands and feet of Christ. And whether it's a woman in a crisis pregnancy, whether it's a passerby who's unaware of the abortion debate or has never grappled with the enormity of what abortion is, what it entails, what it does to unborn babies, and the impact it has on society. We've had 10 million abortions in the UK. A city the size of London is missing from our country. That's how huge abortion is. Over 10 million abortions in,
not to mention
in 50 years.
The children that would have been born from those people.
That's right.
So exponential losses every abortion.
The pain, the hurt, the trauma, the unresolved trauma, and we often see a lot of anger. And for me, that's a good sign, because people are waking up to the reality of what abortion is. Imagine if you've had an abortion and then you come to a realization that you've killed your unborn child, and that is something irreversible. You can't do anything about it. And somebody's lied to you. They said, it's just a blob of tissue. It's a choice. It's it's nothing at all. And then you have that realization of what you've done. And that's the hurt, the pain, the trauma, the unresolved grief that many people have. And yet they don't realize what the problem is. And, through witnessing to Christ, often welling up that experience that's happened in the past, and then coming to a realization of getting triggered by a pro-life vigil, seeing a picture of a baby, it's like, that's not a baby, it's a choice, here we go. And, the first reaction to truth is anger. And that's, and then, people can change their mind in the comfort of their own home, but we could spread seeds, and some of those seeds will be ignored, and some of them will be rejected, and some of them will be accepted. But wow, some people are really receptive to the message that we have. And some of our best leaders are post-abortive women who've had an abortion. They know how important this issue is. We need to connect with them more. But I see a really exciting sign in Europe of, countries like Hungary, like yourself. You've got a Christian government. You've got this Christian heritage. You've got a great campaign in Budapest. Other cities are following you, inspired by that. And you've got the whole country to evangelize. And there's so much more. I mean, the prayer vigil is just the beginning, and then we've got apostolate, we've got apologetics, we've got Unplan the Film, we've got pavement counseling training, reaching out to doctors, engaging with we don't do politics, but, once you've done all those things, and then it's start your own pro-life apostolate and pro-life apostolate. What unique thing to Hungary do you think can benefit the pro-life movement in other countries? What specific to your country would really be of benefit to people in other European countries?
Yeah, I'd love to see a breakthrough in church leadership. So it's been hard to get pastors and priests join us. Because if a pastor or a priest would step up and say, look, I'm going out myself, and I expect, the sheep in my fold to also come out and pray together, that would make a huge difference. So I was very blessed to advertise at the Baptist church I attend. Like I think we've had 4 or 5 separate advertisements just, at the beginning of service or at the end of the service. And I'm also planning to step up and give a testimony of the converts, the miracles that we've experienced on our vigil site. So what would make a big difference? Big difference would mean church leaders, pastors, priests joining us. And I know they're super busy, but I think this 40 Days for Life is something we also need to be very busy with.
That's right. Yeah, this is such a big topic for us, and apathy and indifference. People mention that a lot. People are busy. They've got lots going on in their lives, and pastors are afraid of talking about this issue. They don't want to offend people. They don't want people to stop going to their church as, hey, you're this crazy, you're the abortion priest and you judged my priest. Or they're afraid of saying something that will trigger people who've had an abortion, or that they'll come across as judgmental, or they don't know how to talk about that. But actually, the people that have had abortions, where they speak up publicly about this issue, they're the ones who come up and say, thank you for talking about this. I wish that I had that message earlier in my life. So the more that we can train pastors and priests, inspire them, empower them, equip them to have a pro-life message, to convincingly convey it in their church in a way that's tangible towards ministry, towards outreach. To get the priest to come and pray at the vigil is a massive plus. And we need a culture where this is the norm. Like 40 Days for Life is a normal thing in a parish, that this is just, hey, it's Lent, 40 Days for Life is on, the pictures are on the bulletin board, there's a message from the pulpit, there's a call to get engaged, and the pastor's encouraging people but also participating themselves. That's the culture we need, and the more that we can get that, and working together with other churches too, ecumenically, that's beautiful and wonderful. Levente, it's been a privilege and honour speaking with you today. May God bless your team in Hungary. God bless Magdi as well, the other leader in Budapest. You're doing wonderful work in Budapest. We value and appreciate you so much, and thank you for sharing your testimony, your stories, your country with other international leaders. Please go to our website, 40daysforlifeinternational.com. Do rate, review this podcast, and look forward to speaking to other leaders, pro-life leaders, inspiring people for the pro-life movement. Great to see you again, Levente. God bless you. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much indeed. God bless you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Robert. God bless you too. Have a wonderful day, and good luck with the future interviews.
Thank you.
No te pierdas los podcasts de 40 días por la vida internacional, con entrevistas, reportajes y testimonios de todo el mundo.
Don't miss our podcasts with interviews, news, and reports from around the world.